taking out all my anger on this bottle today. Yeah, what's up, man?
So what?
Yes, sir.
So what is your evidence for your claims?
My evidence for what claims?
The claims that God died on the cross, that all these things are sinful, that we'll go to hell if we don't do them, etc.
I'm a Christian, so I believe the Bible.
But what's the evidence then?
Well, the evidence, I would say, is the argument that I've been presenting here all along, which is this, that the Christian worldview is true on the basis of the impossibility of the contrary. Nothing else can account for things like ultimate truth, morality, logic, reason.
So that nothing but the Bible can account for those things? Not the Quran?
No, definitely not.
Why not? Why the Bible?
Well, two reasons. Number one, it contradicts the Bible. Number two, it's self-refuting.
Well, okay, it contradicts the Bible is circular. I'm asking why the Bible itself is the ultimate source of evidence and
what's wrong with the circularity if you're trying to account for your ultimate authority and your ultimate worldview?
What's wrong with saying this is true because I say it's true?
No, that wasn't my argument. If you heard my argument, that wasn't my argument. My argument is called the transcendental argument for the existence of God. It goes like this. Without God, you don't have the necessary preconditions for intelligibility. In other words, without God, this conversation is meaningless.
But like Muslims believe in God, Jews believe in God.
I already told you why I reject.
You made a bunch of claims
but hold
about
on, you're mixing
specific
categories.
edicts that God has. So what is your evidence? Even if you want to accept that God has to exist, what is your evidence that the Bible is the best source of what God wants us to do? What is the evidence that that text in particular?
First of all, I have to correct a couple of things that you said. Number one, when you said Jews, I assume you're talking about the...
I'm a Jew, yes. So the religious
okay,
Jews, not secular Jews, but the religious
Jews. Okay, so I assume that you're talking about the Old Testament, what we regard as the Old Testament, the Tanakh, the Torah.
The Torah, the Talmud, various writings.
No, not the Talmud, not the Talmud.
The Talmud is part of Jewish.
The Talmud is not inspired by God, sir. The Jews don't believe it is either. They believe it's tradition, but it's not inspired.
But Jews still look to it for guidance. So
sure, but it is not the Word of God, sir. The Talmud is not the Word of God.
The Bible is the Word of God. Why not the Quran?
Hold on. So I just want to make a clarification. I'm a Christian. I accept the Old and New Testament of the Bible. I embrace the entire Bible. Okay. So that puts Jews out of the realm of, in a sense, that I reject their book. I embrace the Old Testament. What I don't accept is the Quran, of course, because of two reasons. I told you. It contradicts the Bible, number one, and number two, it's self-refuting.
You keep on saying contradicts the Bible. This is why
I say
circular logic.
You hear my second point?
I will hear your second point, but first I want to throw out this
idea.
I'll
say it again.
Because you keep on repeating contradicts the Bible. But what I'm asking you is, why is the Bible the infallible source of knowledge? So it contradicts the Bible doesn't make sense as an answer to that. That's
I'll
like
say
you
it again.
saying I know everything.
I'll say it again.
Know? Because you're contradicting me by saying I don't know everything.
Well, you can caricature me anytime you want, but if you listen carefully to what I just said, I'll say it again. The reason why the biblical worldview is true is because of the impossibility of the contrary. Nothing else can account for our worldview.
So you keep on saying God has to exist. I'm asking why the Bible is the medium to interpret the will of
the Word of God.
Why isn't the Quran the Word of God?
I already told you. You didn't accept my answer.
So your first point was like, whatever, it's not the Bible, so it's not the Word of God. What's
my
the second point?
It's self-refuting.
So is the Bible. The Bible has numerous edicts under itself. It says, judge not, lest ye be judged. And yet you very rightfully point out that the Bible gives numerous commands to judge other people. That's like a basic contradiction.
Have you read that verse in context? What Jesus is talking about there in Matthew chapter 7? He's talking about righteous judgment between brethren on religious issues. He's not talking about making judgment calls.
You just sat here and criticized a Christian for having a religious interpretation. Yeah. So you just violated that command.
No, sir, because in the command Jesus says, when you judge righteously. First take out the speck out of your own eye. Then you will be able to see the speck in your brother's eye. Can you take the speck
out of your own eye? Can you list your own sins right now?
Well, no, I wasn't cataloging his sins. What I was doing is I was pointing out where he was deviating from the Word of God.
But why is the Bible the Word of God? Like, why is the Bible in particular the Word of God?
Well, because, sir, because we believe in the reliability and the tenacity of the Bible. I've been studying the Bible for over 20 years.
You believe it, but what is the evidence? Why should somebody who doesn't already believe think the Bible is the immutable, ineffable Word of God and no other text can possibly speak to it?
Because of an objective source of evidence that I have, backed up by the subjective or really abstract argument called the impossibility of the contrary. In other words, sir, everything that you're saying right now, you are saying on the basis of a world view. What worldview do you subscribe to?
Well, I'm asking you about your worldview because you're claiming
I already told you, but you
You're
don't
not telling
accept
me where
it.
the evidence
Well,
is.
let me give you an example. We have 25,000 manuscripts for the Bible. The Bible is a collection of 66 books written by 44 authors over 1,500 years of time on 3 different continents. When we look at the meticulous manuscript evidence that we have almost 6,000 manuscripts just for the Greek New Testament. When we look at the manuscripts of the Bible, what we see is an incredible transmission rate. You have the, for example, the Masoretic text that was found 1,000 years after the original writing of some of the Old Testament books. With the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, we predate the Masoretic text by 1,000 years.
So because it's old and a lot of people have shared the text, that's why it's the immutable will
I'm
of
giving
God?
you the text. I'm giving you the technical evidence right now. We have 1,000 years of visible transmission between the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Masoretic text. We can compare the scroll of Isaiah, and when we can compare the transmission of the Bible, we see that the Bible is almost 100% reliable in transmission over 1,000 years.
What do you mean by transmission? That people copied it correctly?
Right.
Why does that mean that all these copies are the immutable will of God? Why are all these copies?
I don't know that you made a sensible statement there, sir. But what I'm saying is that I have manuscript evidence, but that evidence will be, listen to me carefully now, that evidence will be interpreted by your worldview.
Well, you keep on saying evidence, but all the evidence you presented is that people say it a lot. Like you haven't said, why are the people who say it a lot that it's
I just came back from Israel. And I was in Israel leading a team out there and doing teaching and whatnot, and we had a prolific scholar with us teaching us at all of the historical and archaeological sites. All the archaeology that we saw is an incredible verification of the topography and the historiography of the Bible.
Oh, I don't deny that it has historical significance or anything like that.
No, sir, not just historical significance, but everything is exactly where the Bible said it is. And that's very convincing to me as a Christian, because I can account for evidence. I can account for compelling things like archaeology and history and those and
But how do you know that those tombs are really there, though? I mean, like, don't you have to make like some like I remember the last time, it was like a year ago I came here, you were like, well, how do you know that everything around you is real without believing in God? So how do you know that those tombs
That's the question
real?
I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, but how do you know that those tombs were real? I mean, you said you saw them, but how did you know that that was real? I mean, like, again, like...
So, of course, as a Christian, I have the kind of metaphysical knowledge and epistemology where I do not believe in this kind of hopeless skepticism.
Hopeless? You just said that humanity is full of misery and sinful and, like...
That's not hopeless skepticism. I have an answer for sin and misery. It's called the cross, which you don't accept.
I have an answer for it, too. It's called, like, have faith that helping others is the right thing to do and leave it at that. You don't.
What does it mean to help others?
What does it mean to take Jesus into your heart?
No, I'm asking you, what does it mean to help others?
You're asking me to fulfill a burden of proof that you yourself have refused to account for over and over and over again. So
I have. If they're not convincing to you, I understand why, because you don't have a biblical worldview to interpret the facts. So I'm asking you, what does it mean to help your fellow man?
I think the people you're helping are in the best position to judge that most of the time.
Okay, so what does it mean to help your fellow man? Do you have an answer to that? I have another question for you. What is truth?
I feel like here's what you're doing. You're taking the fact that not everybody knows the absolute answer to all philosophical questions. That's saying, oh, God in the Bible.
I'm not asking you all philosophical questions. I asked you 2 very simple questions that you refuse to answer.
If it's a simple question, why do you say we need 1,000 pages of text in order to get the answer?
No. You're misconstruing the argument because you know you don't want to face the music. You're asking me questions here that presuppose truth, that presuppose knowledge and logic.
So does the Bible.
How do you account for?
I just have faith.
How do you account for logic and truth?
I just have faith.
So you have blind faith?
What do you mean blind faith? No, here's what it is, okay? If everybody walks around believing that the scientific method is correct and acting accordingly, that has an amazing success rate.
How do you know the scientific method is correct?
How do you know that the Bible is correct?
So you didn't answer the question? You don't want to answer the question? I've answered the question of the Bible. I've answered the question of the Bible over and over. You don't like it.
All you've said, okay, the scientific method, there have been thousands and thousands of scientific studies.
I gave you detailed
centuries
facts.
of people using the scientific method.
No. I think everyone can judge. I give you detailed facts on what's called bibliology.
Just because you said a lot of things doesn't mean that those things were correct or prove that the Bible is the ineffable word of God.
You refuse to listen to what I'm saying, so I can't help you. You're free to leave if you'd like. I don't want to have an irrational conversation. If you're just going to come up here, filibuster, and steamroll what I'm talking about, I'm giving you... No, I'm not. I'm willing to listen to your answer, which you won't even give. Where does truth, morals, meaning, and beauty, where do they come from?
It's a process of constant. We don't know the ultimate answer yet, but we continue to figure out. And when you
Right.
say that one text has all
So you don't
the
know.
answers, of course not. You don't know
Neither-
either. You're just pretending you do.
No, hold on. That's a knowledge claim. What you just did there is contradict what you just said.
What do you mean?
When you just said neither do you, that's a knowledge claim. That's not an agnostic position. That's a knowledge claim. So now do you want to take back your worldview and start over again? Because now you're making knowledge claims.
I don't know what you're saying. What's the argument you're making?
Now listen carefully again. You are making knowledge claims as an agnostic. Am I wrong about that?
Like I'm claiming that I know. No, I'm not claiming that I know things. I don't like.
Is it true that you're not claiming that you know things?
Not everybody knows everything because nobody.
Is it true that not everybody knows everything?
Nobody can be absolutely certain about anything.
Is it true that nobody can be absolutely certain about everything?
No.
Is it true that the answer is no?
The answer to what?
What you just said to my question.
Not everybody. Yeah, for sure. Nobody can be absolutely certain about anything.
Is it
can
true?
Be certain enough
Hold on a second. So is it absolutely true that no one can know anything for certain? Think about the absurdity of what this gentleman is in at this point.
Is it absolutely true that no? I didn't say nobody can know. I'm saying nobody does know at the moment.
That's a knowledge claim. That's a knowledge claim. How do you know that, sir?
How do you know that the Bible is true?
Hold on, sir. You just made a knowledge claim right after you said we can't know for certain.
So I think you're doing. Are you talking about the paradox of like?
This is what happens to you when you deny your creator, folks. You say things like, "I know for certain that we don't know anything for certain."
You're just playing a childish game with language.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm using logic and reason.
So this is the paradox of like, oh, there are no absolute truth claims, and then somebody says, but that's an absolute truth claim, right?
Yep, that's right. It's called an infinite regress.
The implied thing is that the only absolute truth is that there are no absolute truths. Like that's the
right.
implication.
Yes, sir. It's called in philosophy. It's called an infinite regress. And it's a problem of truth in many minds.
So you created God. You can also do an infinite regress.
That's a logical fallacy. God is eternal. There is no creation. Creation is a creaturely word. Hold on a second. Creation is a creaturely category. It doesn't apply to the eternal God of the Bible. Sorry.
The universe is eternal.
Keep the sidewalks clear. Everybody here for the Dean of Students coming through, please. And for everyone. I always get corrected for that part. And for everyone. Not just for the Dean of Students.
For safety.
That's right, for safety. So once again, we have an agnostic student before us who is telling us, number one, he doesn't know anything for certain, and he's told us nobody does. On multiple occasions, he has said no one knows anything. But see, when he says no one knows anything, he could just say no one knows X. That is no longer agnosticism. Now, that's a knowledge claim.
I mean, you could be an adult. I could be an adult and say there's a small possibility that other people might know something for certain, which is why I keep asking.
But you would know it.
What is the
But you would not know it.
What do you mean I would not know it?
Because you're agnostic, you wouldn't know if someone knows something for certain.
The thing is, I could
Don't you see how ludicrous that
problem
sounds?
you're presenting to me by just saying I have faith without believing in the Bible in particular.
I didn't say
don't
that.
have to go to the Bible to solve this problem. If you're saying I need to take for granted,
Of course you do, because without God you can't know anything for certain, and you've proven it to us time again. The more you keep talking, the more you validate my point.
The claim that you know God is also a knowledge.
It's like Shakespeare said, fast and furious signifying nothing. And if that's all you are, why engage in a conversation about absolute truth?
I'm not engaging in a conversation. I'm saying you do.
Well, you are.
I'm asking you for evidence
You're
over and
here.
over again that you have absolute truth. Because if we take what you're saying is true, that gay people are going to go to hell, that X, Y, and Z people are going to go to hell, acting on that would require berating people, ruining their quality of life while we're here right now, fucking with them, ruining friendships. So yeah, I think you have to be pretty certain of that. And I'm saying maybe we can all be grown up and say
you've admitted it's possible that I can't know these things because in your worldview, you don't know. So if you don't know, then you have to allow for the possibility that what I'm saying is true, and that that I know these things.
Impossible.
And so what I'm saying is that area of your agnosticism, that it is possible for me to know that my worldview is true, number one, and number two, that the things I'm saying are true. I'm saying, yeah, that's my reality. Thank you.
What, that it's possible that
No. That in your worldview, the fact that it is possible that I do know things for certain, that is true. And you cannot, in your agnostic worldview, prove that it's not. So thank you for the conversation.
I'm saying that you don't have any evidence to affirm that we should absolutely
As an agnostic, what good is evidence if you can't know it to be true?
What do you mean? What good is evidence if you can't know it to be true?
Sir. As an agnostic, what you're saying is we can't know truth for certain, right?
Yeah.
So if I present you with evidence, you wouldn't know it to be true.
It's not about
Don't you see a problem with it?
It's not about knowing for sure. It's about, okay, you're saying we should act a certain way because X things are true. So if you're saying, like, I should walk on that ground because it's not a lava chasm, I don't have to be 99.99% certain evidence, have extraordinary evidence. It's common fucking sense.
It could be, watch your language, please. Any evidence at all. It doesn't have to be that elaborate. It can be any evidence whatsoever. But in an agnostic worldview, evidence itself is unknowable.
It's not about knowing for sure. It's about knowing enough to
I'm saying it's not about knowing anything. No.
All you need to do is be certain.
Probability is your worst nightmare. If this is the pie of all knowledge, how much of it do you have?
Very small amount. Just like
exactly. So probability is something so infinitely removed from the realm of your knowing, because you could say this: I know A because of B. Watch this carefully. I know A because of B. I know B because of C. I know C because of D. Don't you understand what's going on there? What you do is you have an infinite regression where you never arrive at truth.
As the A in that scenario. That's
I don't just make that.
And you say that it's
so here's my argument.
You're still saying God is A in that scenario.
If you listen carefully, my argument is very simple. It's this: I presuppose God as I prove the existence of God.
That's circular.
So what?
What do you mean? So if something is a circular claim, I can claim that about anything.
No,
I'm completely correct. You know why? Because I say I am. I presuppose that I'm correct. Therefore, I just prove that I'm correct.
No,
it's
sir.
a non-argument.
No, that's a vicious circular argument.
Yeah,
a virtuous circular argument is when you're trying to argue for your ultimate authority and truth claim. So, for example, you believe in reason?
What do you mean by believe in reason?
In other words, do you believe in logic, reason?
I think logic is a very useful tool that is more reliable than just relying on the edicts of an old text. But I wouldn't. But I'm sure there's limitations. For example, like it's hard to process your own emotions using a logical scheme.
Everything that you're saying right now, sure, and you can give us a whole lecture on it, right? And that's fine. So my question I'm going to ask you is, when you give us a lecture on logic, do you use logic when you do that?
No, I think.
Excuse me. No, did you say no?
Yeah, for sure.
How do you give a lecture without logic about logic?
Yeah. So here's the thing. So like, it makes more.
Try
sense
it again, man.
It makes more sense to presuppose that you have to use logic than it does to presuppose that there's an omnipotent, omniscient being who specifically doesn't like gay people. Specifically.
Okay. Well, yeah. But you're already getting to a conclusion. You're already getting to a conclusion about something. But what I'm saying is fundamentally, how do you validate reason without reason?
How do you validate God? You can look. You can have.
So you don't want to answer my questions. You just want to repeat my question with a question.
Without reason? Because people operating with a reason mindset do well. People who operate only on religion do not.
That's a logical fallacy called begging the question. By using it, you don't actually answer it. I asked you, how do you validate your reason without your reason? How do you do that?
Because when people have reasonable discourse, over time they end up creating wonderful inventions.
Do they use their reason while they create wonderful X, Y, and Z?
For sure. You have to use a scientific method.
So that you admit to the circularity of what's known as rationalism. Right?
Circularity? How is it circular? I'm saying that it's effective. It works in the real world. I'm not saying that.
Your argument is not getting at the basis of what's known as the transcendental foundation of the worldview that you're espousing here. If you listen carefully to what I'm saying, I'll say it again, but if you listen carefully to what I'm saying, you accuse me of being circular in my reason.
Yeah.
What I'm telling you is that when you're accounting for certain absolute claims, circularity is necessary. For example, a rationalist uses reason to establish rationalism.
If you say circularity is necessary,
an empiricist uses empirical evidence to establish empiricism.
But you can cut out the middleman. For example, like I said before, I have faith that helping people is the right thing, and I have faith that like making people happy and smile is the right thing. Not answering the questions. I appreciate the conversation, but you're not answering the question. I'm asking you, how do you validate your reason without your reason? And you've told me. You've given me examples of reason. That's all you've done. I think we have a language barrier here. What do you mean by validate? Like, do you mean like...
Validate. Exactly what you're telling me. Can't you validate Christianity? Can you authenticate Christianity? Can you give me proof for Christianity?
I can authenticate reason as a practice and a logical schema to use.
And do you use reason when you do that?
I don't use reason, I use the observation of the world around me. Those are two different things.
Wait a minute. The observation of the world around you is accessible to you without reason? So now are you an intuitionist or what?
You're trying to classify my philosophy. What I'm saying is very simple.
It's called the history of philosophy, the origin of ideas. Everyone has them. They're inescapable. There's no way around it.
What I'm saying is that
you may not be mature enough to know where you fit, but you fit somewhere.
How much you need to be certain about things depends on what course of action something being true would imply that you have to take. So, for example,
you're making meaningless statements because you're assuming your reason while you reason with me, and you're saying that you don't have to give a...
I'm not assuming reason.
Yes, you are.
I'm saying...
You certainly haven't vindicated your reason. How do you know you're here? It's simple as this, my friend. How do you know, not as a Christian, don't speak as a Christian. How do you, as a non-Christian, how do you know you're not a brain in a vat? Okay, like our 21st century analogy. How do you know you're not in the Matrix? How do you know you're not in Elon Musk's digital simulation? How do you know that you're not in a room, a padded room somewhere with a needle in your back, and you're imagining this conversation?
I don't need to know that. That's what.
Well, okay, that's not.
Back to like what
again,
you need to know
that's a non sequitur. Right, that's a non sequitur, irrelevant thesis argument. When I ask you how do you know, and you say I don't need to know, that doesn't answer the question,
you're
sir.
deliberately framing the question and assuming that like we need to know. For
no,
sure
you don't
that
like the question. That's the problem.
You don't like my answer. That's the problem.
You haven't given an answer. You gave an irrelevant thesis in logic.
You're going on tangents asking me
questions.
No,
sorry.
You said if you have a question about the Bible, come up here. And now
I asked you.
Around and are continuing to critique other people's worldviews.
We'll try it again, folks. We'll try it again. How do you know that you're not a brain in a vat? You're not in a padded room. And so his answer to that is, why do I need to? Don't you see that's called an irrelevant thesis? That's a logical fallacy. It doesn't answer the question. It doesn't answer the question.
If I believe for 100% sure that I was a vat somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, that wouldn't change how I act and operate in the world, so it doesn't matter.
No, there's that wind, because they said 40-mile-an-hour gust today. That's pretty good. But
that's a perfect example of why the scientific method is more reliable in our day-to-day lives.
But you wouldn't know it. But you would know it because you're agnostic.
You know, I've observed that the scientific method over the course of my life has relied in more
as an agnostic, what you're doing is assuming the validity of your senses. Like your reason, your senses are also something that you assume to be reliable, and you cannot validate why they're reliable.
I can validate it because when I operate based on my senses, like for example, there's a car in the way.
Yeah, that's a logical fallacy called begging the question. What you're saying is that I validate my senses by using my senses. Don't you see the problem with that? Well, hold on a second. I never said that I never said I had a problem with circularity. Circularity is necessary when you're trying to account for the totality of your worldview.
Right.
Yeah.
So we can go circular here too. I believe in my senses because my senses have been accurate over time, and to not believe in my senses would be contrary to my senses. That's a virtuous circle, not a what'd you call it, a vulture?
It's a vicious circular, because your circular reason does not account for everything in your worldview. It's only your personal worldview. It doesn't give us an ultimate, infinite standard by which we can know all things.
I think most people would say, using my senses. Is
once you talk about, okay, I accept. Here's the thing. Once you say, let's just say, because you did already. Let's just say you say, okay, I accept I'm circular too. I use my reason to prove my reason. Right? Once you say that, now you have what philosophers call the problem of truth in many minds. Because what's going on in your brain is not necessarily going on in my brain.
Right.
And so how do you know that what's going on in my brain does not refute what's going on in your brain? Don't you see the problem?
I'm not observing the world around me. So if I say there's no cars in the street.
You can observe it all you want.
You say there's cars in the street, right?
You can observe it all you want, but it's not necessarily what I'm observing.
Sure, it's not what you're observing.
So
but if you play in traffic, you will die.
So you're back to
everyone else around us goes, okay, that guy wasn't correct that there was no traffic. All right, we can move on with our lives.
Yeah. So you're back
you're
back to square one, which is I don't know anything for certain.
I don't understand how that's relevant. What are you talking about?
Well, if you don't know anything for certain, this conversation in your worldview is meaningless.
I know things
every word that's about to come out of your mouth, is meaningless in your worldview. Because here's why. It could be meaningful, but it could not, and we don't know. And so
we can know based on what happens when we act on what we think is true.
That is assuming the validity of your reason and objective truth. Yes, it is, sir. You said we can know. Yes. So now you're accounting not only for the validity of your reason, but the validity of everyone else's reason.
It's observing the world around us.
No, sir. It doesn't work that way. Sorry. that doesn't lead you to an infinite standard of knowing.
Why do we need an infinite standard of knowing?
Because if not, then who arbitrates? We're back to square one.
What do you mean who arbitrates?
Yes.
Again, the actual results of our actions as we observe them arbitrate.
You can't have absolute standards of meaning, morals, beauty.
Why do you need absolute standards? At one time we thought,
why do you need absolute
dating
standards?
a child was okay. Then over time we
because if you don't have absolute standards, then you have subjective standards. Then you have conventions of man.
Constantly improve.
Are you okay?
As we observe the world around us.
We'll find out if you we'll find out if you care about absolute standards or not. So what you're saying right now is that there is no absolute morality?
Wait, I'm confused as to why that's relevant.
Because you're the one that brought up the fact that we don't need absolute standards. And I'm saying, yes, you do. And if you don't have an absolute standard of morality, what do you have?
We need to act as if some things are absolutely true, even if they're not.
That's not the question I asked you. That's not the question I asked you. The question you're wanting to answer is called pragmatism. But I didn't ask you about pragmatism. I asked you... What's that?
That's what I'm affirming. So you're asking
me to
defend a worldview
but I'm right. But I'm actually pointing you towards the conclusion of your argument. The necessary consequence of your argument is that there's no absolute morality. If there's no absolute morality, then you have no right to object to any morality. Don't you see that? You don't?
Of course, I have the right
to object. On what basis?
Let's remove the abstraction of morality. I have the right to object to other people's actions. I don't have to apply a normative statement to it.
So what? It's not going to be meaningful.
Sure, we have faith that it's meaningful.
So what if you have faith?
We have faith that it's wrong to hurt other people, and if everybody acted that way, we'd get much better results than having faith that conversion therapy is okay or something like that, because maybe in the afterlife, something will improve. So, like, again, acting on the world around us instead of the hypothesized abstract world or afterlife you talk about has a much better observable success rate.
You wouldn't know it.
What do you mean I wouldn't? I see it.
You surrendered knowledge at the beginning of our conversation. You said we can't know things for certain.
If you step out of this abstract framing...
Why? So you want to live in hypothetical... I don't live in hypothetical world, sir. I live in the real world.
I live in the real world, too.
No, apparently you don't. Well, you wouldn't know if you lived in the real world, because according to you, we can't know anything for certain.
I know. I'm certain enough that I live in the real world. Everybody else is certain enough.
How do you... Wait a minute. Now you're stipulating what other people know for certain. How do you know that?
I mean, do you all know that killing is wrong enough that you wouldn't do it?
But even asking them presupposes that you can have objective knowledge of what other people know.
I'm asking.
You're no longer, man. I tell you what. You're like this. You're like this, man. It's like today. I'm agnostic. I'm not agnostic. I am agnostic. I'm not agnostic.
You're trying to create a false taxonomy of beliefs so that you can easily with pre-rehearsed.
No, this is the thorny problem with worldviews. You either have a consistent one or you don't, and you certainly do not.
My worldview, again, is that...
You borrow from Christianity in order to substantiate a knowledge claim, and then when you make a knowledge claim and you follow to its logical conclusion, then you default back to Gnosticism.
My worldview is that how certain we have to be about a given truth claim
depends
on the observed.
I want to know if you have any certainty whatsoever, any whatsoever.
I have different amounts of certainty about different aspects of the world. For example, I'm reasonably certain that I'm standing on the ground right now to the point where I wouldn't act as if I'm not. However, I am not reasonably certain that in the afterlife, a majority of my friends will burn in hell forever because they didn't subscribe to your God. The latter claim requires much more certainty than simply saying that the ground around me exists, because acting on that worldview would imply a much more drastic course of action.
It must be nice to sit here and talk about all the things that you know, even though you have a worldview that says at the very beginning you can't know.
It's not either I know or I don't know. It's how certain can I be.
So once again, folks, Exhibit A, this is what happens to you when you reject your Creator. You are fast and furious, signifying absolutely nothing. You can sit here all day and stipulate the things that you don't like about Christianity, but at the end of the day, you could be wrong. Matter of fact, he said, yeah, I could be wrong and you could be right. And therefore, he has no basis to morally or philosophically object to anything.
We have to be more certain
the best thing
about knowledge.
Yeah, the best thing an agnostic can do is to do nothing.
See, you're talking past me now because you don't want to engage in the argument. That's another common tactic of evangelicals. It happens over and over again. When you realize that you're not going to convince somebody with half-baked arguments, you look to the crowd for approval.
Like what?
Or look for people who are
I'd like you to point out one, sir. Just one half-baked argument, sir.
I've been pointing them out over and over again.
I haven't heard one.
You keep on describing my claim of somewhat certainty as absolute certainty. You keep on describing my claim that we can't be absolutely sure about anything, but we can be reasonably sure about some things as me making an absolute knowledge claim. You keep on describing me as an agnostic when I did not say that.
I think it's very simple. Listen to what you just said. You said my claim of not being able to know anything for certain, and then to have some certainty of something. That's called a self-refuting argument. Well, you just said it's self-refuting. Thank you for the conversation. But it shows once again why agnosticism is futility.
You're playing games with language. What I meant by certainty is confidence. I could be reasonably confident, again, that the ground I'm standing on is real, that that guy's wearing a MAGA hat,
you're wrong about that.
You're standing on the chair.
No, you're wrong about that.
If you
just study the history of philosophy, this is why philosophers...
Look around at the world around you. Why do I need to study the history of philosophy to know that he's wearing a MAGA hat, he's wearing headphones, and you're wearing a blue polo? Why do I need to study philosophy to know that? That's an absurd burden of proof.
How do you know it's absurd, sir? You don't know anything for certain?
It's common sense.
How do you know that it's common sense, sir? You don't know anything for certain, according to you.
You don't know anything for certain either. You're just pretending.
That's a knowledge claim. That's not an agnostic claim.
Well,
you see, this is what's called the frustration of your worldview. This gentleman wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to say, it's like, no, I stick to the fact that we don't know anything for certain, but I know that you're wrong. That's a knowledge claim. So he just refuted his worldview.
I can be reasonably confident that you're wearing a blue polo.
Reasonable confidence is not certainty, sir.
You don't have to have certainty.
Are you certain?
Amount of confidence.
Are you certain that you don't have to have certainty?
I don't need to be certain about that either.
Are you certain that you don't need to be certain?
I am reasonably confident that I don't need to be certain.
Are you certain that you're reasonably certain?
What?
Exactly.
What is the question? Am I certain?
What he's saying is, I know A because of B, I know B because of C, I know C because of D. It's called an infinite regression.
You describe A as God.
This is what happens to you when God gives you over to your devices.
For me, A is observing the world around me.
When the man is the measure of all things, he knows nothing for certain.
For me, my basis is observing the world around me. That's A. For
the Bible
you,
calls
your
it
basis
darkness.
is an abstract argument that requires an absurd burden of proof.
You wouldn't know it, sir. You wouldn't know it.
I wouldn't know what. Again,
anything.
You don't need to be certain. You just need to be reasonably confident.
How do you like that, guys? How do you guys like that? You don't need to be certain. You just need to be reasonably certain. It's called your worldview is arbitrary.
It's not arbitrary.
It fails on logical fallacies, sir.
You don't play in traffic because you need to be very certain that there is no cars.
Okay, I'm going to let you guys in on a big secret. Here you go. Ready? My friend here, even though he claims to be agnostic,
I never said I was agnostic. You just made
as a Christian, my friend here actually knows things, but not because of his worldview, because of mine. The Bible says all people know God. They know He exists. They know in their heart of hearts that He exists, that He is eternal, that He created you, and that you're accountable to Him. And in your heart of hearts, you know it to be true.
You're making a knowledge claim now. How do you know what's in
the heart? Of course, because I'm not agnostic.
How do you know that Christianity...
I'm making knowledge claims here because I never surrendered knowledge like you did.
The history of humanity is over 10 times as old as the history of Christianity. So the idea that we didn't know anything before Christianity is absurd. The history of writing predates Christianity. Do we not know anything about writing before Christianity?
History presupposes deduction. Deduction presupposes logic, which you cannot know in an agnostic universe or an agnostic worldview. Welcome to your worldview. Welcome to your worldview. Of being reasonably certain as a person that doesn't know anything for certain. Welcome to your worldview.
I didn't say certain, I said reasonably confident.
That's why you can't define. That's why you can't define an absolute standard of good without borrowing from the Christian worldview. I bet you live like a Christian every day.
Actually,
every single day you live like a Christian, don't you?
Oh, because like I don't kill people or something?
Of course, you don't murder. Okay. I hope not.
People.
When you go to a cash register, you demand exact change for things that you. Have you ever bought a car?
No, all I'm saying.
Okay, I've bought many cars. Have you ever bought a car, you students? You bought a car, you go to the finance office, it's horrible. It takes forever, you're in there all night, okay, negotiating and haggling back and forth. You look at about 20 lines of your finances, you want every single penny to be accounted. What if that finance guy turned to you that night and goes, hey man, you're agnostic, so am I. What's the price of the car? Don't worry about it. We're agnostic. It's just what's a few $1,000 between an agnostics? It could be 1,000. It could be 100. What does it matter?
I can be
you don't live like that.
I can be reasonably confident that losing $1,000
you know how you live?
would significantly hurt
you
me.
live
I cannot be
like
reasonably
a Christian.
confident that hell exists.
You live like a Christian. Thou shalt not steal. If somebody walked right by here, took your wallet, I bet you wouldn't look at that person and go, well, I'm agnostic.
Stealing, slavery, rape, and murder is wrong.
Maybe,
I don't need to rely on a religious text.
Maybe your cell phone. That's even more valuable nowadays. If somebody walked by, took your cell phone, I bet you wouldn't be an agnostic. You would be an absolute moralist. You would believe in absolute morality. You'd be a transcendentalist. You would believe that it's absolutely true that person stole from you, and that's what you would say in court too.
Actually, I'd be more worried about my self-interest.
You would say that in total violation of your own worldview. At least that's your espoused worldview. I know that you're not agnostic. I know you're not atheist. I know that you're not this skeptic that you claim you are. I know that you can know things for certain, but that's because you're created in God's image.
I do not know for certain that stealing is absolutely 100% wrong, but I know with reasonable certainty that we have to ban stealing as a society.
Wait till you're a dad. Wait till you're a father. Somebody does something to your child, you're going to know for certain that somebody committed moral evil.
So I'm going to keep on talking until we actually have a conversation. You can't just talk over me to make an argument.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the argument ended in the first minute of the conversation when you surrendered knowledge.
I'm saying it's over, but that doesn't mean it is.
Yeah, this is Fast and Furious signifying nothing. This is all this is. All you are doing, you know what this is like, right? For you, it's like taking a bottle of pop, soda, shaking it up, letting it explode, and then looking at it and say, taking two bottles, right? Let's say Coke, Pepsi. You shake them up, you open them up, and then you ask the question, which one's true? What? It doesn't apply. Same thing for you. Once you surrender knowledge, everything you're saying right now doesn't apply because you don't know. It's meaningless.
You keep asserting that you have to be absolutely certain and there have to be absolute
If we didn't come from God, sir, where did we come from?
I mean, there's a mountain of evidence that we came through a natural process of natural selection. Like, that is like...
I'll let the conversation keep going, but evidence presupposes knowledge. Knowledge presupposes certainty.
If we find thousands and thousands of fossils over time...
It's no longer agnostic. Now he knows what he knows because now he's even able to observe evidence, apparently. So, okay. So evolution. So you're saying about evolution. So we evolved. Yes. So we're just matter in motion?
What do you mean by matter in motion?
Yes, sir. Sir. Listen, modern day contemporary evolutionary theory says that we are the byproduct of random, unguided, undesigned chance, and that all we are is matter that moves.
That's not quite what it is.
No, that's exactly what it is.
That's often something that
I have some of the leading professors on record saying all we are is stardust floating around. Is that what you believe?
That's not about random chance or whatever the matter.
Well, yes, it is because they're atheists too, and they believe nobody
it's about
guided
trial and error. Okay, so say I'm shooting at a target.
Sir, I
missed the target. I'm not going to shoot in a random direction after I miss the target. I'm going to get closer to the target. Same with evolution. If one species comes around and it doesn't survive, it's not like you start from scratch with a completely random species. Over time, species are more and more suited for that environment. That's what it means.
Yeah, isn't it nice to know things?
Again, you keep on claiming that I'm saying I know things, but I'm not.
Okay, all right, I try to help you. Okay, isn't it terrible not to know things?
Again, we can be reasonably certain about
Which one do you want, man? Isn't it nice to know things, or isn't it nice not to know things? Which one do you want? I'm trying to help you.
Dichotomy. It's not about not knowing or knowing. It's about on a wide range between knowing and not knowing. How confident can you be given the amount of evidence you observed around you?
All we are is matter in motion.
So you're describing something in deliberately pessimistic language so that everybody has doubts and wants to believe in religion to feel better.
Sure.
But that's not actually an argument.
I understand. You said that before. Sir, all we are is matter in motion. Where do we get meaning, morals, and beauty?
We can ascribe whatever meaning to our existence that we want.
It's just a convention.
What do you mean? You keep on saying just a convention. That's a normative argument.
Yeah. That's the only option.
It's great that we can decide that human beings have meaning. It is great that we can decide that everybody around us has inherent worth and deserves rights. It's great that we assume that having green space is a good thing and act on that.
Yeah,
It's great to do that. So you keep on saying just, but that's a normative assumption. That's not like a That's not an actual argument.
Okay. Yeah. I agree. I agree that it's great for all those things. I ask you again, where do we get meaning, morals, and beauty, and are they absolute or not?
We take the morals and meaning.
Are they absolute or not?
No, they're not absolute.
Okay, so there's no absolute morality?
No, it doesn't have to be absolute. Again, observe the world around you and see what...
So murder, rape, pedophilia, those are not absolutely wrong, they're just conventionally wrong?
They are so wrong that it's reasonable to punish people and lock them away for doing it to other people, and that's all that matters.
Oh, so it doesn't matter if they're...
So
it doesn't matter if they're actually wrong, it just matters that if we act...
It matters if they hurt other people and we saw them hurt other people. Yeah. That's what matters.
So, agnosticism, just for you guys that care about philosophy and the history of philosophy, agnosticism always reduces itself to pragmatism. Pragmatism is the denial of transcendental morals, meaning, and beauty, which means you can't have the basis for beauty. So in other words, for example, I'll give you an example. People are putting crucifixes in a bottle of urine, and they're calling that art. Okay, would you let people do that with a picture of your mother? Okay, this is what the Roman Empire did, and what that led to, because they rejected God as a standard of morality and goodness, they ended up plastering Rome with public pornography. How would you like your child to live in a world with public pornography? Right? Because just like him, they did not believe in an absolute standard of right and wrong. And so there's nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong.
The Vatican is the great capital of the religious world. That doesn't make sense.
I'm not a Catholic, so I'm a Christian.
Catholics are Christian. So you're denying the religiosity of the largest denomination of Christianity?
Not denying the religiosity. I'm denying the Orthodox.
Christian faith?
Sir, listen for a second. Listen for a second. Have you ever heard of the Protestant Reformation?
Yes.
That's a denial of Catholicism, sir. The 95 Theses nailed on the door of Wittenberg by Martin Luther is a rejection of the Catholic faith.
So the Bible isn't 100% correct. I was confused because I thought you said it was copied perfectly, and now you're saying there was such a schism.
Doesn't follow.
Yeah, it does follow. You said the Bible was copied for 6,000 years from the Dead Sea Scrolls and no alterations. Now you're saying
6,000 years. Okay, man, you're onto something, bro.
And now you're saying
you're listening carefully. That's for certain.
There was a whole Reformation and schism where somebody wrote 95 ways that all previous transliterations of the Bible and interpretations were incorrect.
I'm so glad that you're spirited enough to sit there and espouse the convictions that you have, which I would say are unfounded, but at least you're willing to sit there.
What convictions? What do you mean?
Oh, just anything. Your convictions of right and wrong, your convictions of why we do right and wrong.
My convictions I have stated what I believe over and over again. And
I know that.
Talk over me and strawman me for the crowd.
Well, I think for the record, we know who's talking over who. I'm asking you questions, you usually answer them with a question. I'm asking you a detailed question about your worldview, and you usually give me some non-sequitur answer.
I started asking you questions, and then you ask me questions.
Right. You usually give me an answer that's not even relevant to what we're talking about. When I ask you if you believe that morality is transcendent, you say, we just do it because.
When I ask you what evidence there is that the Bible is...
I gave you the evidence and you don't like it. I give you the evidence and you don't like it.
You said the evidence was that it was copied over and over again, it was old, and you saw a bunch of archaeological tombs.
Nope, that's not my evidence.
What is your evidence of the Bible?
Not what I said, sir.
Is the evidence of your Bible that I'm not correct about everything? Is that what it is?
I'll say it again one more time. The argument of biblical Christianity is built on a transcendental argument, and this is how it goes. Why is Christianity true? Because of the impossibility of the contrary. The attempt to deny Christianity asserts Christianity because you borrow from Christianity. You are living on borrowed capital. Every time you speak against Christianity, every time you speak against Christianity, you borrow principles that are rooted in Christianity, like logic, like reason, like morality, like right and wrong. Yes, they are.
The history of philosophy predates Christianity.
No, it does not, sir. Oh, thank you.
Aristotle was not a Christian. Socrates was not a Christian. Plato was not a Christian. Like, what are you talking about? You keep on referencing the history of philosophy and reason, which predates Christianity in your arguments. And then you say that Christianity is the source of logic and philosophy?
This is obviously naive and facile, what's going on here.
So you're claiming that Aristotle was a Christian. That's your claim.
Well, you talk about the history of philosophy. It didn't start with Aristotle, sir. It started with Thales, and it started with the Milesians. It did not start with Socrates or Aristotle or Plato.
Are those people older than Aristotle, right? They're older? They also predate Christianity.
No, they don't.
They don't predate Christianity?
Ever heard of Adam and Eve?
Oh, so it doesn't predate the made-up Genesis creation story of Christianity. Excuse me.
Yeah, hello, I'm a Christian. I believe the Bible. Listen, sir, I don't just believe the New Testament where it says Jesus died on the cross and rose again. I believe in Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
I'm saying the practice.
I believe that too. You know what I mean?
The practice of Christianity happened way after the origins of philosophy.
The God of Christianity is the same God that revealed himself to Adam and Eve.
But the people
Nothing predates the first man and woman on planet Earth. Nothing.
You are saying that Christianity, not God, Christianity is the source of logic and reason.
Yeah, Christianity rightly defined, which is the only true religion that ever has been, ever is, and ever will be.
Even if we accept your creation story, Adam and Eve predate the time when people practice Christianity, because that didn't happen until Jesus came around.
What I'm saying is that your understanding of Christianity is fundamentally flawed because of your ignorance of biblical theology. And that's okay, because I don't expect you to have biblical theology and understand biblical theology unless you study it. So Any biblical theologian understands that the same God that Adam and Eve knew in the Garden of Eden is the same God that is revealed, that sent Jesus Christ to die on the cross and rise again.
So if you want to say that logic and reason comes from God, that's one thing, but you're saying it comes from Christianity, which as an actual religion that people practice did not come around until Jesus.
Yeah, Christianity in name, I understand what you mean, but Christianity in its essence predates the name. Do you know that the name Christianity, do you know where it came from?
What would you call the essence of Christianity?
Real quick, do you know where the name Christianity came from?
Christ.
No, sir. Where did it come from? Who said, where did it originate?
Wasn't it the Paul or whoever?
No, sir. Christianity is the name that was given to the sect of Christians by the enemies of Christianity as a name of slander. They were so-called Christian. They were first called Christians in the book of Acts. You see that, okay? For example, in Acts chapter, I think it's Acts chapter 17, but in other words, we didn't invent the word Christianity. We understand that the true and living God has revealed himself to Adam, to Abraham, to Moses, to Isaiah, to Jesus, to Paul.
Evidence?
Well, evidence that you won't accept because you don't have a biblical worldview. You have an agnostic worldview. I can give you evidence, sir, I can give you evidence that piles up to the moon. And you know why you won't accept a shred of it? Because of your worldview.
You have not cited any evidence that would be believable outside of already accepting your conclusions.
Right, I gave you the evidence. I'll give it to you again.
If I have to accept your conclusion in order to believe that your
is
evidence
valid,
I'll
give you evidence that I am encouraged by as a Christian, but that's because I'm a Christian. For example, there's 25,000 manuscripts of the Bible.
I'm asking you, why should a non-Christian who hasn't already accepted the conclusions of Christianity, what evidence do you have for people like that?
No, sir. People don't accept Christianity on the basis of evidence. They accept Christianity on the basis of knowledge. They know they're sinners. They know they're accountable to God, and they know that unless
I'm a sinner. I'm not a sinner. People around me are not inherently
They know that unless they repent, they will go to hell and not to heaven.
That's not true. You just made that up. That's not true.
Well, it's I understand that you disagree with it, but I'm telling you on the basis of my worldview and what the Bible says, there are no such things as atheists or agnostics. People actually do know things, and people actually believe in God in their heart of hearts.
No, I don't.
They suppress that knowledge through unrighteousness. In other words, because they choose rebellion rather than submission to the lordship of Jesus Christ, they suppress the truth. What's that?
If people inherently believed in Jesus Christ, you wouldn't have had to send missions all over the colonized world in order to convert them.
They believe, and I said it earlier, they believe that God exists, that He is infinite, eternal, that He made them, that they're accountable to Him. These are the limits of conscience and creation. These are the limits of what you can know through your human, God-given conscience and through the creation around you, that you know here is something made it, somebody big and great made all of this, and you know in your heart of hearts that whoever made all this, that you live in light of Him.
Heart of hearts. That is something that you just presuppose. I do not know that on my heart of hearts.
I presuppose it on the basis of revelation from God.
I think it is a beautiful, wonderful thing that I am happy to live in and be exuberant and even sanctify it without thinking somebody
sounds religious.
It. You can do that. You can
have a religious, man.
You can have a religious and spiritual worldview that does not rely on the.
You know why? Because you're trying to ascribe meaning to your worldview, and you can't do it without borrowing from the religious language of Christianity.
Christianity is not the only faith that has religious language. You're claiming it does, and it doesn't.
Right, but you got to remember, I'm a Christian, and so my argument is that there's only really one religion that exists in terms of truth metaphysically, and that's the true and living God of the Bible. That's it.
That might be what you believe, but that
Yes,
doesn't mean
sir.
that there aren't numerous religions that also use similar.
Oh, there's countless. There's thousands of religions.
Secular humanism is one.
But the Bible says that the gods of the nations are idols, and but God created the heavens. And so only the creator of the universe is the true and living God, which obviously my argument is that that's the God revealed in the Old and New Testament of the Bible.
Given any reason that we have to think that somebody created the universe in order to either sanctify it or act upon what we observe in the world.
I gave you the evidence, but you don't accept it because you're not Christian.
That line, but you haven't actually given any evidence.
What good is evidence to an agnostic who can't know anything for certain?
Again, we can look at the world. I'm asking you based on what I can actually
I know you don't like that
see in the world.
because it holds your feet to the fire, but that is where you're at, unless you want to reject your worldview and start over again. Somebody that doesn't know things for certain, what good is evidence?
Evidence can make you reasonably confident about things. It doesn't make you absolutely
That's like
certain.
going up to a delusional human being and telling them about reality. What good is it?
What are you calling me delusional because
No,
I want to
no,
look
sir,
at
sir,
the physical
sir.
world around
Sir,
me in
sir.
order to like...
Why students are not capable of this is beyond me. I gave you an analogy, a metaphor. I didn't call you delusional in that sense. I used the metaphor of a delusional human being. And wouldn't you agree if you and I went up to a person that was completely delusional? Let's say they believe they were, they were an alien from another world, and they had it all worked out, and everything we told them, they just interpreted along the planet that they're from and the spaceship they came from. And we said, like, sir, don't you understand? You're in America. This is 2019. What good is giving evidence to that person that's so delusional? It's impossible. It's like telling a blind person, right, what it's like to see. It's not gonna matter to him because he'll never know it in his experience.
I know what it's like to feel spirituality and to feel that kind of feeling, and that's what you said. But that doesn't mean that I have to believe that empirically a God exists and that the Bible is exactly what He wants for people. That's a leap that you don't have to make in order to be a spiritual person who finds sacredness in the world around them.
My argument for Christianity, the argument against you is this, is that without the God of the Bible, you can know nothing for certain. And you've proven that today, so thank you.
What do you mean I've proven that today? I have not. You keep on trying to get the...
You want to start over again? What time is it? Tell us what you know for certain and how do you know it?
Well, you keep on saying, tell us what you know for certain. I reject the idea that you have to know things for absolute certain.
Are you certain that you reject it for certain?
Am I certain about my own intent? That's the one thing I can say for certain.
How do you know that? Okay, so you are certain about something. So you're no longer agnostic. Keep that in mind, folks. He just abandoned agnosticism.
What do you mean?
And now he's saying he knows for certain something.
You know what?
What do you know for certain?
You know what? You have convinced me that I'm not actually 100% certain about my own feelings. I am just so reasonably confident in them because I exist inside of my own being that I'm comfortable expressing them.
Give him a round of applause. Because at least we made some progress, right?
So yes.
Okay, tell us again. Here we go, one more time.
What was the original question again? So we don't get off
here we go. It's real hard. What do you know for certain and how do you know it?
I don't need to know things for certain. I don't know anything
That's
for
a
certain.
non-secular argument. It's irrelevant.
How is it irrelevant?
It doesn't answer the question, sir. It doesn't answer the question.
I do not know things for certain. You are presupposing that I know
Wait
things
a minute.
for certain.
Wait a minute. So are you back to agnosticism again? You just rejected it. You just said you knew things for certain. And now you're saying you don't.
There must have been a confusion. Okay.
Oh, man. I got you on tape, man. What are you... Okay, say it again. What do you know for certain and how do you know it?
I don't need to know anything for certain.
Do you know that for certain?
No.
There you go. Thank you, guys. That's what happens when you reject your creator.
Oh, did you take a video of the last 2 minutes of the interaction so that you could spread it around the internet and say, Lay Epic College? Come on.
No. We record everything in context and release everything in context. But what I'm saying is this, is that we're right back to where we started from an hour ago or however long we've been talking.
Right.
Which is that on the basis of your worldview, you cannot know anything for certain. You say it doesn't matter that I don't know anything for certain, which is irrelevant. There you go. This is what happens to you when you reject your creator.
Are you leaving now?
What's that?
Are you leaving? Is that why you're trying to wrap up?
I am wrapping up in a little bit, but what I'm saying is that the reason why we're concluding these, why I think the argument was over the first minute that you surrendered knowledge, the minute you did that, the argument was over. Technically speaking. Because if we can't know knowledge for certain, then everything we're both about to say is meaningless. This is
just because you don't know for sure doesn't mean it's meaningless.
No, sir. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Why?
I know you're not going to like what I'm about to say, but if you study the history of philosophy, this is exactly where David...
The history of philosophy predates Christianity, and every philosopher agrees with it.
Hold on a second, sir. I was saying something. You study the history of philosophy, that's exactly where David Hume ended up. Ended up in a violent skepticism, where he rejected the possibility of knowing anything. And that violent skepticism was where every other philosopher picked up. That's where Immanuel Kant picked it up, Hegel picked it up. That's where all these other philosophers picked it up, because they thought, no, we can't embrace radical skepticism like Hume. We have to be able to account for doing philosophy. We can't keep our universities open if we're all just surrendering to skepticism.
I'm not saying, so when you say surrender to skepticism, is what you're saying, like,
the idea that we can't know anything for certain.
Just because you say you don't know anything for certain doesn't mean that you can't be confident enough about things to act on them. It's
I know that, but the worldview...
Saying,
I know that, but you'd have to surrender your worldview and start over.
What worldview? What were you talking about?
The worldview that led you to the conclusion that you can't know anything for certain.
Why would you have to...
It's called agnosticism.
I don't have to surrender the idea that I can't know anything for certain.
Oh, I know you probably won't, because you're a pragmatist.
To be confident about...
You live like a Christian every day.
Whenever I think I know, in order to act on it. Like, it's not the...
I know you're not going to in the real world, because in the real world you live like a Christian. We've already established that.
I do not, like...
Thou shalt not steal from you. Thou shalt not murder you.
I mean...
Thou shalt not disrespect your parents.
Definition of living like a Christian, I also
you know that. Thou shalt not lie to you. Listen, if you don't live like a Christian, you're in trouble. You won't graduate from this college.
Now you are
doing
the liberal. You're doing the liberal doctrine is Christianity.
Right. If you don't live like a Christian, you will not graduate from this college.
What do you? So if I don't,
if you don't abide by these principles, thou shalt not lie. You will not
Those are
graduate.
cherry-picked principles. If I agree with some things that Christians happen to espouse, that doesn't make me a Christian. I don't agree with walking around...
I didn't say it made you a Christian, sir. I didn't say it made you a Christian. It says that you're borrowing Christian capital in order to practically live in the real world. And of course, once again, that's what the Bible says happens to everybody. They end up living contrary to their profession. They don't live like consistent nihilists, skeptics, agnostics, existentialists,
I'm not a skeptic
mystics.
or nihilist. I keep on saying I am. I'm not.
I didn't say you were, sir. I'm rattling off many worldviews at this point. You are essentially an existentialist agnostic. That's what you are. I know you may not want to say that you are, but categorically, unless you prove me otherwise, that's what you are. You believe that morality is subjective, it's not ultimate. You believe that truth is not knowable, certainly not knowable. That's agnosticism. You are an agnostic subjectivist.
I would describe what I believe as contextualism. Now let me describe it again. Let me try to phrase it in a different way to make sure that I can make the distinction for you. Okay? So...
Real quick before you do that, does anybody else have any questions about Christianity, the Bible? I know this gentleman's been kind enough to sit here and talk with us, and for the most part been very respectful. But if there's somebody else with a different question, the microphone works for a little while longer. Of course, we're usually here. Oh! I'll be here tomorrow, because you have a false teacher coming to the campus. His name is Jesse Morrell. He'll be preaching here. He is a heretic. He preaches a false Christianity, and he's going to say he's going to do it here. So I'm going to be here to confront him and ask him to leave, because I don't want to be associated with him, and that's been happening here on campus lately. People associate me with a heretic like Jesse Morrell. And he doesn't believe God knows the future. He believes that Christians can be sinless and not sin, and he believes in a lot of other crazy doctrines. And so I'm going to be here to confront him tomorrow, Lord willing. But the microphone will be on just for a few more minutes if somebody has a question for me about the Bible or Christianity. If not, I'll let you have the last word. How's that?
I don't want to make a final statement or anything. I'm fine just continue to talk until your time comes.
Yeah, well, you can come anytime, use my microphone, and as long as you're rational and as long as you're willing to have a conversation, the microphone will work.
Well, does anybody else want to get the microphone? Because I've been here.
Nobody rose their hands or nobody came forward, so that's okay. But
okay.
But you're free to do that. The microphone, listen, just so you know, the microphone is really not for Christians.
Yeah, you said that.
If you're a Christian, I don't want to talk to you on the microphone. I'll talk to you afterwards. I'm here for non-Christians. It's not hard to get. I'm here to talk to people that are not Christians. That's the whole purpose of coming to the campus, is to talk to people that need Christianity, that need the